Well, it's the night before the race, so what better time to get this thing going again? It's been about 11 months since I've worked on this thing, and that's my own fault. Life gets in the way and priorities get mixed up. But hey, we're back on her. So last year, we only ran one race. Pretty unfortunate, but it did not bad. Second to last race, though, I blew the transmission out of it. Coming around the back straight, and I hit fourth gear under power. Normally you let off the shift, and I blew fourth gear right out of it, and it ended up grenading. I'm guessing a bunch more things, so I'm gonna get the transmission pulled out of here, and I'm gonna show you guys what goes into building a racing transmission, and maybe a little bit of an overview on the machine as well. All right, for those of you wondering kind of what goes inside a lawnmower racing transmission, this is what I've got here is like a Peerless 710 or 720. It's a 5-speed, what they call on the go, and it's a transaxle. So what makes these things kind of ideal for racing actually is the ability to shift on the fly. It's a clutchless transmission other than to first gear and reverse. So this is your input gear here. It's driven off of a vertical shaft gear there. And those you always have to make sure are extremely lashed up nice and tight. These transmissions are originally built to run on grease at very low speed. They normally have like a 8 or 10 inch pulley on them that really gears them down, right? Top speed is normally like what, 4 or 5 mile an hour. And this particular machine I've got geared up to about 35 mile an hour. We don't really need to do anything more than that to get around the track effectively. What works really well too is actually gearing it that low helps really well, because in your fifth and fourth and third gear are far closer together gear ratio wise than your first and second gear. So what that allows is on sticky tracks that take a lot of power, often you actually have to shift. I actually do it between third and fourth normally, and then fifth is my all-out gear. And normally I can't get that on the track. Some track designs are a little bit different and they run a little bit quicker. Therefore I can use fifth the odd time. But I've got it revving pretty good. The engine probably revs about 72 to 7,500. So roughly a little over double than what stock is. And can you imagine 6-inch pulley with a 7,200 input to a 3.5-inch pulley on the transmission? These gears are turning very quickly. And you always have to have a lot of spare parts. I've got probably 7 or 8 of these transmissions just for parts, and that's just to keep one running. So actually I just replaced a bunch of the gears in the gear set here. Last race I was coming down the back straight trying to catch a guy, and I didn't let off power to shift into fourth. I came around the corner third, tried something different, and I never let off the throttle and I shifted it. And fourth gear here, or at least half of fourth, said, "Nah, no thanks, I'm going home." And that end tail ended up taking my second gear out there, my first gear, as well as my second or first gear would be this one. I guess that would be my fourth gear. That's what that would be. So they take a lot to keep running. You need a lot of spare parts and a lot of things you got to do to these things. I've modified this one to work on oil. There's no way to keep seals in them to where they don't leak, so it's just a matter of keeping them topped up, and as a rule, whatever you put a liter of oil in it and you're fine for the season. But shimming these things up nice and tight, spare washers here, they're made to run on oil now, so that means that you got to tighten the lash up. But I mean, you still got to keep a little bit in there. The oil still has to get in there and take that clearance up for you. But yeah, just little oiling mods like this, and still you can hardly keep these things together sometimes. This transmission I've actually had pretty good luck with. When I built the machine, I went through it pretty well, and I tuned it up and I just lashed it up nice and tight. I run an 85-140 high shock gear oil, they call it. So it's built for extremely high load situations. And what makes these transmissions cool as well is like I say, this shift on the go here. And the way they do that is with shift keys. So these are shift keys. A normal shaft will actually only have 2 slots cut in it there. You can see that they're 180 degrees apart. Whereas this shaft here, I've actually had custom cut, and it's every 90. So looking at the gears down here, these are the engagement gears, and now it grabs all 4 slots instead of just 2 slots, which those little shift keys, I'm not sure you can tell, but they're only a 1/4 inch thick. They're only a 1/4 inch thick down there, and that little piece is like not even a 1/16. They are extremely high tensile steel, and they're made to take a lot of load, but it's side load, so it means knowing what you're doing and letting off the throttle when you shift. But yeah, it gauges in on all 4 of these splines, and I thought maybe it would shift a bit harder, trying to find that one spot. But the reality is, if you're shifting 2 keys, it's the same as shifting 4. They're all 90 degrees apart in this case, so it actually makes it quite easy. And sadly, these run bushings. You can get like a Peerless 820. I have not been able to find one of those. I would love to. They're a garden tractor transmission instead of just a regular lawnmower transmission, and they have bearings here, here, and I believe this shaft is cut in half, and there's a bearing there, a bearing there, a bearing there, and of course one on the end. And then I believe the diff has bearings as well, which is just awesome. And I'm trying something new this year. You can see I put a bunch of goober welds in there. I had an old crusty gear set off of a transaxle that I got and that was blown up already, and the gears were just totally goofed in it. So I'm trying the lock diff thing. I haven't done it in the past. In fact, I've tried very hard to actually do the opposite of that. And you can see that here. These are my spider gears, and I've actually converted them to run a bearing on the insides here, and that's actually to reduce the friction it takes to actually differentiate. So coming around a corner, I actually kind of want that inside tire to be spinning a lot more. And the only reason that is so that you can turn. You can run with a lock diff, but it takes a lot of power because you have to kick out the rear end and steer with the back instead of the front. And I think I'm there. I'm gonna try it. Nothing else. You know, I got this full set. We'll put it back in there. There's nothing wrong with it. No chipped teeth or anything. But yeah, these things are extremely hard to keep going. You never really know what's wrong with them until you're in them. So I make a habit of just every spring, I'll pull them down and do what needs done in them. But I mean, even like this, I had it nicely lashed up, and you see how it's just galled right up. So this is supposed to run there, and you can see the difference in between the new used gear and the one that was good last year. Now that probably has about an hour and a half worth of driving on it, maybe a bit more. I think I might have ran this 2 seasons, but I mean double that, 3 hours worth of driving, and it's already looking like that. It's pretty crazy. So we're gonna go ahead and install this new one, and we're gonna give this a try. The other thing I'm trying out this year is I'm going to delete this reverse chain. So I don't know, I've done a bunch of reading, and guys on the internet saying at high speed these chains will just come apart and rip through your case. I've never had it happen. I've been running, I think, 8 years with this machine, and it's probably never had less than 25 horse under the hood, and I've never had a problem with it. And that's whatever speed I've thrown at it. So, but I'm going to try to delete this. The way my mower works in reverse, it tries to kill you because I've got an extreme amount of caster in it. So it's pretty hard to turn and not die when you're in reverse anyway. So that's another thing I'm going to do, more just for safety. I'm just going to take that out of there and give that a try as well. If I don't like it, put it back in. Here you can see we've deleted this chain. I'm not sure what that is, like a number 40 or 41 chain. Either way, never had a problem with it. Not even a connector link in there to come apart. So I don't know, I've never been too scared of it. It's more of a safety thing for me as a driver and those behind me. So this is the reverse sprocket. It's in there just as a spacer. And then the sprocket that was here was what contributed this face here to the wear here. So adding this new gear here, I've actually used my old first gear as a spacer. It's actually the perfect spacer. It doesn't mesh in absolutely anything, so ignore those. That is not of concern at all. So yeah, went ahead and deleted that. No more reverse, I'll have to remember it, and hopefully that'll work out. Got her all lubed up. Brand new oil in there. Well, at least some of it. Some of it's still the old stuff we used from last year, but It's still pretty good. So, lubed up. Just some RTV silicone around the edges. Like I say, you can't stop these things from leaking, so there's no point in trying too hard. Basically, we just try to keep the gear well off the brakes, and the rest of it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, we'll put it together now. Man, some days you just can't win. So, had it all back together. Put it in the machine, test drove it. Doing some test driving. I probably drove it for about 3 minutes in total, and blew third gear out of it. So I'm hoping you can see in there it's MIA. It's down there right now, and really hoping my shift keys are all right. I'll get it apart and show you guys. Oh man, look at the carnage. So looks like we're gonna have to place 2 washers, another gear, and I got one of my shift keys, and that really sucks, but a bit of a chip out of the shaft there as well, but I think it'll be all right. Well, put another third gear set in it and try it again. Top cover's on. We're gonna go ahead and torque them with this here snap-on torque stick, and that torque spec on every single one of these bolts is yes, and then a little bit more, and then you'll be just fine. So like I was saying, this here pulley is about that big, and it makes it go about that fast. So it's about a 3 3/4, I believe, 3.75 there. Run a case breather. Of course, you're getting your case hot. Best way to keep stuff from leaking when it's hot is to let it breathe. And these are bearings in here, which is pretty awesome, but they don't get lubrication. So I'll go ahead and actually use aircraft grease in that top shaft there. This is your shift shaft right there. This is the neutral safety. Obviously, we don't need that. Shift shaft right there, shift on the go, like I said. All I gotta do is keep clicking it, clicking it, clicking it. You got gears 1 through 5 right on command. Okay, let's go ahead and throw this thing back into motion. Well, got the transmission back in for the second time. Had to rebuild it again, or at least replace the third gear set. Kind of flukish in a way. I hadn't expected that would happen quite so easy. Test driving it, and it going from second to third, not even under power, at least that much power, and still letting off mostly the shift. I wonder if my shift timing was wrong, and I shifted before I let off. But yeah, I blew third gear out of it. So repaired that, and it's going again. Working pretty well with the locked rear diff. I suspected that it would be a lot harder to turn than what it is, but it is quite a heavy machine, and I've got a pretty sweet front axle I built for it to where I can adjust everything except camber. So you can see that the right side tire there is tilted in a little bit, so that helps because these axles don't articulate at all. It's a full solid chassis. Axles are mounted straight to the chassis on these things, so as you're coming around a turn, we only do left turn, it actually kind of lifts up that inside tire being on the left hand side and kind of picks it up, and it plants your inside rear tire. So that's worked really well for me. I'm not sure if you can really tell, but the front right tire there, it's actually cambered out on the top to provide that same effect. Fully adjustable front end that we built for it, or that I built for it. It's a pretty sweet setup. Never had anything break. I've got full 1/2-inch Heim joints on my steering linkage there, 9/16 there, and it works really, really well. Only downside to this machine is it is built extremely heavy. And I think that's mostly the reason I have transmission issues, just trying to push too much weight with too much power, versus if this thing was, 75, 100 pounds lighter, then what you could do is you're pushing that much less weight, it's that much less wear and tear, even with the same amount of power. But yeah, this is a bit of an overview on it. It is a Sears chassis that's obviously been cut, sectioned, modified as needed. They say that you're supposed to do stock wheelbase, which is easily done, as long as your axles are back where they're from, at least on that machine. So this machine is actually longer than normal, and it's actually a little bit wider than normal. It's quite a large machine. It's almost garden tractor size, actually. But it makes it extremely stable, and it makes it extremely safe. You can see the foot guards and bumpers, everything got on there. It's just to keep me safe as I'm riding around, because I might be safe on the track, but that doesn't mean everyone else has got their head turned on. So always want to make sure you're gonna get home that night. But yeah, Up until last year, I was just running some knockoff hood off of some sort of machine. Pretty ugly. Maybe I'll throw a picture in here. But last spring I built this. So it's supposed to resemble like a 66 series International. It's pretty neat too because it's a Cub Cadet hood on there, and it has the correct body lines for it and everything. So I had to make this grill. That's at a 1/2 inch solid stock. Act is a bit of a bumper as well. You see in there I've actually taken and put an oil cooler in there. Not necessarily, not exactly sure anyway if it's necessary, but I always thought it would be cool to have an oil cooler on a lawnmower engine. So I had to build my own custom adapter block. That's actually where the oil filter used to be on, and the filter would stand about here. And I built a custom block there. You can see custom oil filter adapter that we made as well. And then yeah, the lines just plumb down there and then into the oil cooler. I haven't really temp gunned it to see if it makes the greatest of difference, but it's definitely not going to hurt. These things run pretty hot. Like I say, I run about 72 to 7500, I'm guessing, depending on where I am. That's basically just on the straights, probably down to about 5 grand in the corners. Sometimes I shift, sometimes I don't. If the track's nice and loose, then we steer with the back, and it works pretty awesome. You can just hold her wide and it takes it pretty well. It's got a McCuney. I don't know what size. It came off of a 500 Polaris 2-stroke, but a dual carb setup, so a 2-cylinder dual carb, so it's technically like a 250 cc carb, but that's, I believe, a 1 1/4 inch bore versus the carburetor that came off of this engine was like 11/16 bore. Very, very small. And I built a nice tubular manifold, not that you can see in there. Dual exhaust, obviously, that's just more for aesthetics than it is performance sometimes. Definitely doesn't hurt. Nice little air filter setup there. That part works pretty good. Got a catch can breather from each, I guess just from the one valve cover, and then a main breather from the crankcase, just to keep those pressures down, keep the rings sealed up as much as possible. Hand throttle, run a hand throttle on there. I have run foot throttle, and it is dangerous because that means that you have 2 pedals on this side. So it was mounted right about there. My foot's normally about there as I'm driving around the track, bracing myself. I need to actually move that back, but that's not going to happen this year. That's my brake pedal, and that goes down to a actually a ETV disc brake. See in there, and that is 8-inch rotor, I believe, and the one that came off of it is like a 2.5-inch rotor. Tried the whole different brake pads and stuff in the old assembly, and I just could not get the thing to brake safely. So we went and updated it to that. It's just a go-kart style clamp style caliper. Actually, exact same system as what was on this transaxle, so that kind of helps. But yeah, a couple gauges, just a volt gauge. Make sure it's charging. Sucks when your battery goes dead. Oil pressure gauge, make sure it's healthy. Oil pressure light, anything under 5 psi, that light comes on. I actually want to link it in with a relay to my kill switch, so that if it ever gets underneath 5, then it just automatically kills the engine. And what that will also do is, if you have an oopsie and you forget to put the oil in it, an oil change or something, you can crank it as much as you want, but it will not fire without oil pressure, because it will not let that spark until it's primed itself up and create oil pressure on it. So that part's pretty neat. I would like to do that anyway. Gear shifter's up here. That part is awesome. Like I say, we pretty much just do left turning with this thing. So it's pretty set up. It goes hard left and it goes straight. That's about it. If you go right, then it lifts up the inside tire on the opposite side, and it's kind of hard to drive actually. And then just a regular snowmobile style tether cord. Gotta have that for safety, of course. A couple switches here, main ignition, charging, and then that one I don't use. But yeah, this engine is a 16-horse Briggs Vanguard series that I've done a little bit of work to. I haven't spent any money into it other than just rings and gaskets. That's literally been it. I got the timing advanced a little bit. I built a custom offset key for the crankshaft there in the flywheel. Give it a couple more degrees of timing. These things run like 35 degrees from factory, But I mean, they're fixed timing, so when you're running high RPM, it works pretty good. When low RPM, it's a bit of a dog. It doesn't really like it that much, but you get her screaming and it's happy. But yeah, it's a 16 horse Vanguard. I've done a little bit of cam work to it, just on the intake lobe side. All I've done is ground the base circle. That's gotten me a couple thousandths more lift. Nothing too crazy there. Of course, we don't have to worry about the hardening or anything on the base circle, so that part's awesome. The lobe still stays the same. Factory valve springs, but I've got like 150,000 shims under each one, and I've also reinforced the factory retainers. Had a lot of problems with those cracking out at high RPM as well. This thing runs all steel push rods. These engines come with 2 aluminum and 2 steel push rods. Steels are on the exhaust side, but they are the same length as the intake aluminum side. So whatever, I had a couple of these engines railing around, obviously going to put those in. But yeah, it runs pretty good. I'm guessing it's likely putting probably about 32 to 35 horse when it's running strong at high RPM. It's not that great at low RPM. The carburetor is actually too big for it, and this engine does not create a vacuum signal at anything under like 2,000. It actually runs pretty crappy. It smokes, and it, if you're not careful, it'll foul your plugs out. Just because, yeah, like I say, it's just not getting a vacuum signal. I got a great big tubular intake manifold on it with a great big chamber here, so it doesn't really run all that well, but you get it up above that RPM, and it's happy to be there, and that's where it works. It actually, when I'm racing, after the end of a race, there will actually be condensation on the outside of this manifold. It flows that much air that it's actually condensating. So, but yeah, it actually runs pretty good. Had a bit of problems with it. That tubular manifold I need to redo. You can see it's actually smeared in silicone. I had some vacuum leaks that I just could not get rid of. I do tune this with a AEM AFR gauge, and that was goofing me up. Figured that out last year before the races, so now it actually runs pretty awesome. Hoping that we don't break too many things in this first race here, and that it'll work out. Got her all loaded up. Head out there and see what we do. Got a spare tire, front and rear. Get a jerry can of premium and a couple tools and extra parts. Hopefully it works. Well, that didn't go as planned, but definitely as expected. So, I blew up the transmission again. I only was able to run 3 races. The race that we finished, we won. the second race, we ended up throwing the belt off. I had a belt guide loosen up and start chewing the belt. I didn't have a spare belt along. Like I say, I haven't really had much time to work on this thing. So basically the idea was that if it won anything, that was great. And if it didn't, then we were going to load it up, and that was going to be that. I wasn't going to try too hard to get too bent out of the shape to finish the event. But yeah, so second race, like I say, through the belt got a little chewed up. So that got me out of the second race. Third race, I ended up blowing up the transmission again, coming into turn 3 out of turn 4. So I'm gonna get this thing pulled out of here again for the third time in like 2 days. And let's inspect and see what happened. See what kind of carnage we can find. Man, some days you're just happy to be wrong. You know what? There is nothing wrong with this transmission. I took it back apart here. There is not one single gear that has a chip other than that one that's just acting as a spacer. This transmission is minty. But I assume my transmission blew up because when I turned off the track, it grabbed once or twice. Then I tried 2 or 3 more gears, and then it would grab once or twice again. And then that was it. It just stopped. But what it ended up being, it's just the belt. Belt came off, but it's also just shredded. I mean, look at this. It's just terrible. Junk. I do believe that was a Kevlar belt. Yeah, you can kind of see it's got some blue in there. It was a Kevlar belt, so I think I ran this tube. This is possibly my 3rd year. So it deserves to be junk. This was the guide that had come loose on me. Just enough to rotate and then start gulling up that belt there. So that is was the start of our entire problem. So yeah, all because of a belt. But hey, that's what you get for trying to race lawnmowers, right? They're not supposed to be made to go fast, so it's the fun and games of it. But yeah, had I known, had I had a second belt along, would have been able to just throw that on there and keep giving her, but no, it's all good. So I guess put this transmission back in here with a new belt. Keep racing. Well, let's do a cold start. Got the transmission out of there. It's on the back of the truck right now. Let's talk about that. So you can see our main ignition switch here, oil pressure dummy light, oil pressure gauge, charging gauge, currently on at 12. Same deal there. So this is my main ignition. This is a secondary kill switch, just to make sure. And then I've got my tether cord down in here. And it's just as simple as hitting the button. Oh yeah, all the oil pressures. I run a 20W50 weight oil in this thing. And I mean, the best thing you do for a cheap race engine, right, is start with a worn out one. Put a set of rings in it so it seals back up, and you got all your fancily machined extra clearances factory built. But yeah, this thing actually runs pretty well. You can tell it definitely has some timing in it too. It fires off pretty nice, even though it smokes a bit. Like I say, it's definitely rich at idle. And because it's not turning the transmission, it's also idling a lot higher than it normally is with the transmission in there, because no matter what, if it's engaged or not, it's always turning the input. Yeah, this thing runs pretty good. I used to have a tack on it, and with the old hood, that white one, and it went bad, and I haven't taken the time to get a new one. I just put this hood and grill on it there, like I said, for last year's race, and I haven't worked on it since. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what this thing does rev at. I know I have hit 6 grand with it running poorly. So I I say 72 to 75, but I almost wouldn't doubt if it's a little bit more than that, maybe tickling 8, 8.25. But yeah, pretty neat little machine. Well, I guess that's that for this time. A little bit of the graveyard there. We got some more donors in the back. I think that their case 222 might just be the next one getting built. But let me know if you guys got any questions. I'm of the mindset that the sport needs to grow. So it'd be really cool if we can get some more blood involved. Currently, the last couple races we've had 12 to 15 machines, anywhere ranging from the juniors all the way up to like the outlaw class. And it's a lot of fun, but yeah, always need more guys. So let me know if you guys got any questions. Definitely try to help out everyone I can. Well, thanks for watching, guys.